Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian from Whisper Status 74, and this video is going to be about settings for movies and streaming as well as cable TV. Now, I'm not going to do any settings. I don't really think that these settings videos that we do are always helpful, as we all have different displays and every display is different. Even displays of the same number don't exactly help each other. But what I want to talk about a little bit is some of you guys have gotten into 4K for the very first time. This is a discussion community-based channel where we do respond to the comments. And what's been happening in the comments lately is some of you guys, after much research, my channel, all the other channels, painstaking research, I mean, really being patient, have finally bought your first 4K displays. Some of you guys have bought flagships, your Q90s, your Q9FNs, your Z9Ds, these displays from the last few years that are the best of the best, and you're not happy with the picture quality and you don't know why. And some of you guys, I think, in the comments are a little bit shy about sharing that. You're afraid to get attacked. The channel is pretty safe like that in terms of the community that we have. It's typically a very helpful community. What you might find is if you comment on not liking your display, somebody with the same display might come in and say, "No, that thing's awesome." So I think that's why you guys are apprehensive. Don't be apprehensive. The comment section of our channel is one of the best, I think, that I've seen. I'm very proud of this community and all the people that are in it, and they are typically very helpful. But what we're talking about here is you guys buying new displays and not being happy with what you see. And typically it's happening with Blu-rays, 4K Blu-rays, regular Blu-rays, and cable TV. And what you're seeing, or what you're hearing, is a lot of the marketing talking about 4K resolution, HDR. You need HDR, you need Dolby Vision, you need all these things. And you're seeing this now with 8K and HDMI 2.1 as far as you have to have these things, because think about it with consoles. The new consoles coming out are talking about 8K at 30. They're talking about video games, 4K, 120. Guys, that's going to be very far away. However, the marketing of it is making you think, oh my God, I got to get something new. I have to get this. That kind of marketing is what made so many of us see HDR for the first time and think that we had the wrong disc in. Now, what I mean by that is when 4K Blu-rays first came out, or even streaming, we were led to believe that HDR was going to be this explosive, bright, crazy, due to the marketing, what we would see, spectral highlights, explosions. And 4K resolution is 4 times the resolution of 1080p. Same when 1080p came out, it was this big jump. And remember those old demos of movies when 1080p was coming out and HDVD and Blu-ray were battling it out. They would show you Harry Potter, clean as can be, and movies like 300 that I knew had a false grain structure, looking crystal clear, motion enabled. And you brought it home and you said to yourself, what the hell am I looking at? I felt that way with my very first HD TV when I was watching Lord of the Rings. That was standard definition. Understanding what upscaling really is. 8K upscaling is no different than 4K upscaling. It's no different than upscaling your 720p cable box on a 1080p screen and then taking that same 720p and putting it on a 4K screen or an 8K screen. Upscaling isn't going to clean it up. It isn't going to make it look better. The goal of upscaling is to make it look the same. My 1080p plasma looks better in 1080p than my 4K display does. It's native. The plasma looks flawless. Everything is 1080p. It's not trying to do more. It's not a higher resolution on a larger screen. So all upscaling is doing is fitting the screen. So that's the first thing I want to talk about as far as keeping things in mind. When you buy these 4K Blu-rays, be mindful that some of them are 2K upscales. Be mindful that your 1080p disc might look better. Maybe the HDR implementation isn't as good. So I think some of you guys are popping in this stuff and you're saying, what the hell? Like, and you've even said to me, I can't believe I just spent $7,000 on this, or $5,000, or $500. I can't believe I've been hearing about Dolby Vision. I've been hearing I have to have this, and I don't think I understand. For me, other than setting your expectation as something a little bit more realistic, it's more about understanding that Blu-rays and grain structure and how things are filmed is a big part of it. If you take something like Aquaman, and for those of you that haven't seen Aquaman, I personally thought it was okay movie-wise. I'm pretty superheroed out, but the clarity in that movie is jaw-dropping. It's what 4K is all about. I mean, every pore, it's not DNR'd, meaning that you can still see the details in the costumes and the hair and the effects. The problem is it's so clear that the effects to me don't look real. They don't blend in well. It had me laughing at times watching them run across the rooftops. You've seen that in Mad Max Fury Road. Some of the effects look painted on the screen. Why I explain this to you is that while we love and want that clarity, directors don't want that. Directors want things to look as real as possible. Now, you would think to add a grain structure or to leave filmic details into the screen is going to make it look false, when in reality, it makes it look real. It hides the makeup. It hides the effects. CG is used now when somebody falls. Not just an explosion. It's when someone trips and falls, they CG that. They CG fight scenes now, which looks terrible on a 4K display that is making it look very, very clear. You add a false grain structure. Think Batman vs. Superman. Think even the new Shazam has that. Even though it's filmed the same way Aquaman does, it's nowhere near as clear. Some of you guys are seeing that for the first time and you're thinking, what in the hell? Why isn't that crystal clear? Now, I'm talking to those of you that are new to 4K. I'm not talking to those of you that are well-schooled in it. I understand why things are this way, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that 4K Blu-rays, the majority of them are 2K upscales. They're not 60 FPS. They are 24 FPS. They are not this whole I need to have this motion for this doesn't always hold water. We've been told to upgrade. You need to buy it. Right now, everyone's saying, I got to buy HDMI 2.1. I need it. My thing is, why? You know, why would you need that to watch movies if you're doing it for watching films? You want to stream 4K? Think about the bandwidth that's necessary. So my thing is, while we spend this money and we do this research, it's a shame that many of you are not enjoying what you have because you're seeing what so many of us saw a few years ago. So the reason I did this video as well is I picked up Hellboy. Do I have it out here? Hellboy, The Golden Army was one of my favorite comic book movies. I picked it up on Blu-ray. It was 18 bucks, 4K Blu-ray. It was rated very well. And what bothered me about it is when I popped it in, it was very soft. The HDR implementation was not sharp. It was really just color. And that's really, guys, what HDR typically is. Yes, we've been led to believe that the marketing of it is these huge explosions and brightness is going to pop and contrast. A lot of times it's just more accurate color. Utilizing the 10-bit panel, utilizing it to where the colors of something like The Matrix are different than what you and I saw on Blu-ray. That's actually HDR in many ways. Now, HDR at its best, as far as I'm concerned, is that and the sparks and the lightning, the things you see in the Avengers. I like them both. But there are many discs where you pop it in and you're thinking, do I have the right disc in? And some of you guys are going through that. Now, that's just the reality of film. Grain structure, how it was filmed, what it was filmed on, when it was filmed. The Godfather on 4K Blu-ray is going to be a grainy movie. It was filmed in the 70s. Same with The Exorcist and a lot of these old films. I bought many of them. The Aliens Blu-ray transfer is phenomenal. It is at times on different places where it was shot so soft that you're just like, oh, what the hell? Part of that is setting the expectation, realizing when it was shot, how the director really intends it to be. And also, I lost my train of thought on that. Also realizing that being filmed in different scenes, unlike video games where it's all kind of filmed the same, one scene to the next is going to look amazing or not amazing. 2001, that movie looks jaw-dropping. And then you think to yourself, wow, that was filmed so long ago. And then it shows a space scene. And you're like, oh, well, that's obvious that was filmed a long time ago. What I meant to say before was check your memory. For me, my memory, Metal Gear Solid in video games, Mario 64, those games are crystal clear in my mind. The way I remember it is there's no jaggies, it's just clean. Daytona USA for Sega is clean. Go back and watch those now. They're not as clean as you remember it. So there's a part of it where you have to remember that they aren't going to blow away. The jump isn't going to be... One, it's not going to jump past your memory of how good things were. The first time we saw Lord of the Rings or Gladiator, the first time you saw those movies, this isn't going to jump past that so much. And that's where I think some of you guys are saying, well, where are my expectations? I thought I was getting this amazing display with clear black and all these different marketing terms. 4K has really more or less allowed you to have a much larger screen. And HDR has allowed you to have more color. It doesn't give you much more than that at its worst. It doesn't provide you more than that. The ability to be closer, larger screen. That's why we talked about 8K. 8K is not necessary unless you're going to be much farther back with a much larger screen. It's not going to make anything look any different if you're not going to be right up to it. And trust me, with 4K, you don't need to be much closer. I will say, though, with movies, and 8K is not going to solve movies either. That grain structure is going to be even more enhanced at 8K. It's not going to be any cleaner unless it was shot in 8K. And we just said a minute ago, the movies are done in 2K half the time and upscaled. So you're going to see 2K Blu-rays upscaled to 8K. You're going to see cable TV upscaled to 8K. Trust me. We talk about the upscaling of cable. Now, though Sony and Samsung and LG have great upscaling, really try to be honest with yourself. Does 480, 720p look like 4K on your 4K display? Chances are it doesn't. Upscaling doesn't, like I said, make things look better. It just makes them fit your screen. So, upscaling, that's a big part of it. The other part of it is calibration and settings. So now they're different. Calibration, to me, is taking equipment, going into the settings of the display, using color correction, going into the actual factory settings that we can't grab with our remotes. You're hooking up a computer, you're hooking up equipment, and you're getting everything accurate. I don't do that. I'm not a professional TV person, but from my experience, it is a value. It is something you can do. I know many people that have done it. Have it done or had it done, and they are very happy with it. A lot of people aren't thrilled with it. You have to think about what it is you like in an image. And this can be a totally separate video, but we're talking about what it is you like. If I do a settings video for my display, which I've done a bunch of them, we don't have the same taste. If you don't like motion settings, and I do, if it all depends. Sorry, it's a little blurry. If you like a more natural image, we talk about this with Samsung, right? Samsung, one of the best-selling TVs on the market. People love Samsung. People hate Samsung. People love their color. People hate their color. Is it wrong color? It's just not. It all depends on if you like the way they interpret color. Is it accurate? Is it not accurate? That is something that's up for debate. It all depends on your taste. If I like a more colorful image, you may not. Back to settings. Now, if you should have your TVs calibrated, it's a little daunting when you just spent an X amount of dollars plus tax, plus the warranties that a lot of us have to buy now. You're feeling like that's a lot of money. To spend an extra $400 per HDMI is a little bit daunting. So I would say save up for it, research it, and then we'll do another video on that specifically. What I will say, though, is I would like you guys to try this. For those of you that are underwhelmed with your displays, your high-end displays, whatever displays you have, I need you to set presets for all of your content. Okay, so separately, your cable TV. That should be a separate, not a separate HDMI, but a separate setting. This is going to sound like a pain in the butt, but there isn't one setting to rule them all. For your cable TV, I would like you to take down your gamma, get rid of your motion, get rid of advanced contrast. These are all for all displays. Take a lot of that stuff off. That brings pop to the image, and you'll see with 720p content, you'll be much happier. That backlight doesn't need to be maxed for that. What I'm trying to say is that that display is putting out so much for what's not needed. Out of the box, that standard, that custom, all those presets are valuable. You can use them, but they're not meant to just be. They're meant for you to mess with. And unfortunately, many of us are addicted to messing with the settings, but it's necessary, at least in my opinion. Your 4K Blu-rays, your Aquamans, your very clean ones, you can put that on your more aggressive settings. If you like to have that on Vivid, or you like to have that on your one cinema one, maybe Movie One or CinePro or whatever it is, that'll be for your cleaner images, your Pacific Rims, your movies that can really take it. The ones that are super clean, the HDR is jumping off the screen. Enable your live color, enable your extended dynamic range, your dynamic contrast. Go to town, put up your brightness, whatever you want to do, that's for that. Your animation, make that your vivid setting if you want to do your Pixar's, your DreamWorks. You get where I'm going with this? Got to have a setting for each part of your content. Now, where it gets a little bit dicey is that, say it is 4K, and we have our Aquaman setting, our bright setting. Then you go on to Netflix and you're watching Mindhunter or Breaking Bad or House on Haunted Hill, and it has that fake grain structure. And you say to yourself, wow, it looks like crap. That's where your secondary cinema home or cinema movie mode is going to come in handy. That's going to be your one that's still going to be maxed with its backlight and everything that needs to be maxed for HDR. For your Samsungs, your Sonys, whatever displays you have out there, when your display goes into HDR automatically, it's going to max your backlight, it's going to max your extended dynamic range, it's going to make your gamma at 0 or neutral. It's going to do I don't recommend moving those down. To show you HDR correctly, your display is doing everything it can to show you HDR. Even though the HDR moniker in the corner is not going to go away, you'll knock yourself out of HDR. Stay there, as far as I'm concerned. But knock down those other settings. You don't need to have dynamic contrast on high. You don't need to have that stuff. So make yourself a softer setting for your older 4K Blu-rays, like those movies, those old horror movies, your streaming. Have a couple of different presets for each different type of content. So something like Mindhunter or Breaking Bad that has a high grain structure, you're saying to yourself, oh, I'm on Aquaman setting. You'll knock it down to that secondary cinema setting that is more subdued. Maybe has a warmer color volume. The sharpness is down. So have settings for each of those. Then have another setting for your 1080p Blu-rays. Those ones, those Blu-rays aren't going to have HDR. So take your backlight from 10 or 100 or whatever it is and knock it down to 5. That's why when you look at Artings and Vincent, a lot of these other calibrators, when they have their real non-HDR settings, the backlight's at like 4. It's very low. It doesn't need to be maxed. It's going to, especially on Samsung, it's going to wash out your image. So set another one for your upscaling, your 1080p upscaling. I'm telling you, with movies like Godfather and a lot of these other Blu-rays that look terrible on your large displays, knock your sharpness down. Knock those settings down, have a separate preset, and you'll be much happier with the image. Yes, if you have a Z9D that has 2000 nit peak brightness and you pop in the Blu-ray version of Lord of the Rings, it's going to look awful. Or a movie like an old horror film. I know it sounds common sense, guys, but it's not common sense to everyone. Set those TVs to your eye. Set to, mess around with the settings. Go into all different content. Put it on there. Play it and say, wow, that looks amazing. If it's Avatar, for instance, and I'm in my highest end Aquaman setting, stay there, then pop in an old Blu-ray and then go, ooh, move down to another preset, reset it, and then start to bring down those settings. When you're not in HDR, don't worry about accuracy. Don't worry about, am I seeing what was intended? HDR, unfortunately, is not flexible that way. You kind of need those things to be up. Now, I'm not saying you can't change them. I don't recommend changing your backlight if you're in HDR. I don't recommend that. You can if you want. But with everything else, my backlight for PC gaming, I want to say, is at like 10. It's low. I mean, it's down. My gamma is -2. So I'm not even utilizing what my display can do. But the content I'm playing isn't mastered for that. It's not mastered at 4,000 nits. So keep in mind that your content needs to match your settings. Your cable TV setting should be as bare bones as possible. Knock that brightness down. You'll be much happier. You won't see such blowout with saturation. So mess with your settings, guys. Create cinema specific settings. Have your game settings, whatever you want. I don't believe you should have to stay in game mode. But when it comes to movies, understand that Blu-rays are going to be soft. Sometimes they have to be in order to hide that movie magic. But I think some of you guys are just a little bit disappointed in how things are looking. And a lot of it has to do with the way your displays are set up. They're not set up incorrectly, but just keep in mind that those presets are valuable. You can use them. And like something like your custom preset, use that one for what you use the most. So the way it is in my display is Cinema Pro is for aggressive, fast, bright animation, or movies, I should say, like Aquaman. Cinema Home is for your more subdued, grainy 4K Blu-rays, like Hellboy and Underworld and those films. But that other one can handle Dunkirk and some of these Sicario. Then I have another setting, my standard setting, that's just for 1080p Blu-rays where things are really, really knocked down. And then I have my animation setting that's for the kids stuff that's really ultra bright and ultra fast. So try taking some of this, try setting up separate settings for everything. I know it's a pain in the butt. I wish there was one setting that could set them all perfect. I don't believe there is. If you believe there is, I can't disagree with you. For myself, I don't agree with that. I think that you have to have different settings for different content. And be patient. If you're struggling with your displays, I am always here in the comments, but you've bought the best display there is out there. Be patient with it and understand that not just with gaming, but with movies and cable TV, think about the source before you look at your display. Think about how much larger this display is than your plasma. Think about how much brighter your new display is. Even if you have a new OLED, it's brighter than your old LCDs. It's brighter than your old plasma. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the displays. We are here to help. I'm here. The community is here. Just take some time and mess with it. Don't get frustrated. I understand your frustration. You spent all this money. You've done all this research. Now you just have to clean it up a little bit and just fine tune it. And just know that those settings can be knocked down to make some of the content look better. Sorry the video is so long, but this is a video for you guys that are concerned about settings and are underwhelmed with newer displays. Don't be. They're awesome. The 4K content is out there. It's awesome. Just need to tweak it a little bit. All right, guys. Thank you as always. Take care.